Welcome back to Irish Footy Vlogs. Welcome back to another Premier Division preview show. It's the penultimate one of the season. Some interesting results, obviously, last night meant that Shamrock Rovers are now the champions. And first of all, JP, you'd have to say fair play to Shamrock Rovers, even though they didn't play last night. It was a fantastic season overall for them. It's their third title on the bounce, 20th title in the club's history. Fantastic achievement for the club, fantastic achievement for Stephen Bradley as well. And ultimately, I know Derry have been putting up a challenge all season to a degree. We have to say, you just felt like, I know people were saying that maybe I wasn't giving Derry enough credit, but you just felt the Shamrock Rovers, I felt personally that they were going to go and win this title in the end, despite what they've had in Europe and that. And look, they've gone and won the title, and fair play to them is all you can say. I suppose it's a pity from a neutral point of view, first of all, though, that it's not taken to Sunday, whereas Shamrock Rovers would have to win the game against Derry to win it, that kind of way. So it leaves that game a little bit cold, if you like. But fantastic achievement for Shamrock Rovers, and no doubt they're absolutely delighted in Tala.
Yeah, I think there was a show back in July. I think there was a result went for Rovers, and I think I said back in I think it might have been Drogheda beating Dundalk or something like that. Because Dundalk were their nearest challengers at the time, and I said what that result done was confirmed Rovers as champions and confirmed Drogheda as being safe. And I totally expect that Rovers they have it wrapped up long before now. Never did I expect that they get down to the fortnight in the season. I think you have to give Derry credit for pushing it right to the final 2 weeks. I think after May, June, we would have taken this. The format we had May and June, we would have taken that because we started off really well, couldn't maintain it. Then we had a brick wall, and then we found our mojo again around August time, and it coincided we wrote extra games in Europe, and you would probably have to look at the extra games in Europe as being a factor in helping Derry sort of keep up the challenge. But at the end of the day, Derry still had to go out and win their games and keep the pressure on, and they did that up until recently. And you just have to take your hat off the Rovers. You don't win three in a row if you're you don't win three in a row if you're not a good team, and they are a good team. They're not just a good team; they're a good squad. And fair play to Stephen Bradley. I know many people had written them off a few years ago. I know there was
Including
people
their own
calling.
fans.
Yeah, I know there was a period. I think they'd lost six in a row, and there was a period where they were looking from sacked, and just shows you when a board has faith in the manager and they stick by him, and they've now reaped the benefits of not pulling and fair play to them. They've had a fantastic season. They've won the league. Um, they've reached the group stages in Europe, and I think they've now done what they wanted to do. They've got themselves back into the Champions League for next year and give themselves a great chance of not a great chance, but a better chance of maybe repeating their European um ex their European exertions this year by winning the league. By finishing second doesn't make it impossible, but it makes it a wee bit more difficult. And there'll be no doubt they'll be looking to bounce back and try and go for four in a row next year. And I think they're the only team in history. I could be wrong. Could be another team out there, but I think they might be the only team in history they've ever done four. And
I think Waterford might have done it, but I'll check that after the
Waterford,
show. I think they might have, yeah.
Waterford, but
Funnily
I
enough,
know
yeah.
Rovers were, I know Rovers, no Rovers were definitely the last team, the Jim McLaughlin era, in
Yeah.
the early 80s. And look, fair play to them. At the start of the season, if you'd said to me that we were going to run them close, reach the cup final, I'd have taken that type of season all day long.
Yeah, Luke, I think the biggest thing I think you have to say for Rovers, the biggest compliment as well, is that when Derry were kind of going that run there where they'd won, what was it, 7 league matches in a row? Isn't that right, JP? Wasn't it 7 league matches in a row? Was it 8 league matches in a row? 7 or 8 league
I think it
matches
might
in a
have
row?
been eight.
Eight
I
league
think there was
matches in a
10.
row.
There's eight. I think there was eight in the league and two in the cup. I think
I think so,
there was.
yeah.
I
But it was
think
it
it
was
was
a
a run
massive
of
win
10.
and run, but from Derry, Luke, and you'd have to say even though some results had dropped for Rovers, and a lot of them were in the back of those European games as well. They never panicked, did they? Really, never felt like they were panicking.
No, and that's what really good teams do. Like, do you know what I mean? And when it's like, look, they obviously would have known when they got into Europe at that time that there might be games that we're going to go into and we might only be 50% or 60% at it because of, we might have traveled, a couple of days before to a long distance or whatever. But there was some of the games that Rovers played and came back and they didn't even play that well in, but they got wins, you know what I mean? And they're the sort of wins that win you leagues, like, and whether it's like a 1-0 away win or it's a 2-1 and you don't play well, then they're the sort of wins that you'd look back on rather than going out and spanking the team really. So that's the sort of wins they'll be looking at when they've pulled together and got them sort of dogged wins, because they're the sort of wins that they would have wanted. And look, Rovers this season just incredible again. It's just you just put your hats off them, because there's not much really else to say apart from just an incredible team and incredible management they have there. Could have lost Bradley and Cronin, and they could have lost their backroom team and towards the start of the season, and we might be looking at a completely different situation. We might be talking about something completely different. But Bradley and his staff stuck behind. The players stayed and have achieved a serious achievement in 3 in a row. 3 in a row in this league is tough to do as a league title. So it's brilliant for them. It's brilliant. It's look, you don't really know. There's not much else to say, but that's what good teams do. They don't panic in them situations. They play each game. They take it each game as it comes, and when you do that, you give yourself a really good chance. And when you've got a squad like Shamrock Rovers, who even with Europe continue to be putting out their best 11 every week and still playing to a really high standard, it's just a credit to them, and it's a credit to the club of Shamrock Rovers and what they've done the last couple of years, and what they continue to do, and we still expect Shamrock Rovers to be a force in the next couple of years as well. So it just shows the sort of club that they are and how big of a club they really are.
Waterford won 3 in a row, incidentally.
3 in a row, was it? I think we can't talk about the season Rovers have had in Europe and domestically without praising Stephen Bradley, because we all know of his family issues as well that he's had throughout the season with his son Josh as well. So I think that probably makes it a wee bit more special for him that he's managed to be there for his son and win a league title and qualify for group stages. You have to take your hat off them, because it shows an enormous character for somebody to be able to do that.
Absolutely, no, 100% JP. And so it's the 2 games coming up now against Gent on Thursday and Derry on Sunday. And funnily enough, the Gent game now, it probably means that they might actually kind of play the strongest team for Gent after all, that kind of way, because I suppose they'll be looking at a JP to say to themselves, can we get something in Europe here and really go for this in Tala now? More so than the Derry game, if we're honest about it. The Derry game will just be a party, to be honest with you, but the actual game against Gent is the one where they haven't scored yet in the group stages, so they'll be looking to change that anyway.
Oh, 100%. Like they've had in their history, they've had 10 games so far in a European group stage, and they haven't won a game yet. And they've got their first point in their first game, and as you say, they'll probably go into this Gent game now. Different mindset. They'll go in with a full strength team, possibly, or the best team that they have available. Do everything in their power. They try and get that one, because at the end of the day, if they beat Gent, they go level with them. You know what I mean? So and they'll not want they'll want to give themselves a chance of maybe not finishing bottom of the group as well. So there's always that, and as you say, like the Derry game now is immaterial for them. It's just about getting there, turning up, doing what you have to do, and then have a big party in afterwards. And for us Derry fans, there's still quite a few of us going down to support the team. We have to, in a year's time or 2 years' time, the roles could be reversed, and we have to sort of take it on the chin now, and because in a couple of years' time, we could be in the position of Shamrock Rovers, and we would fully maybe expect the respect from them as well, and I'm sure that we would. But look, I think Thursday has a different mindset. They'll go out, they'll try and win the game. Sunday it'd be all about just obviously they'll try and beat Derry as well. They'll go on the game and say, look,
Because they want to be unbeaten at home, don't they, as well, if they
yeah,
can for
they'll
the
want
league.
to
It's their
be
last home
unbeaten as
match.
well. Yeah, and they'll want to lay down a marker as well for Derry for next season as well and say, look, you might be the up and coming team, but we're still the champions and something like that. And look, I'm going down there myself on Sunday, so um, fair play the Rovers and their fans and enjoy the party.
Yeah, Luke, it's a good point. I suppose from a neutral point of view, it is disappointing that this game between Shamrock Rovers and Derry doesn't mean anything. Because a week ago, you might have said there might be a glimmer of Derry can go and win here, that they might be still in the race. Or on the flip side, Shamrock Rovers would actually have to beat Derry or draw against Derry to win the league. So, you know what I mean? The game would mean something. So it is, as a neutral, you'd have to say it's just disappointing it didn't at least go to Sunday, isn't it?
Yeah, it would have been an unbelievable occasion, but especially would have been on RT as well. And the whole thing of maybe RT have said a few things this season that, people attendances and all sort of affect games being put on telly and all this. But on the flip side of that, you've seen some of the games this season that have been on telly, and most of them have been sold out. Do you know what I mean? I'm looking at the game Drogheda played in against Dundalk, in Headley Game Park, sold out. You know what I mean, on RTE. Most of Rovers games this season that have been on RTE.
Derry's
Especially with them playing on the Sunday, Derry's as well. So
Stadium
that whole
Pierce Road.
thing is another thing. Yeah. So look,
I don't think the game the other
it's
day
not. It would
between
have been
Rovers and Pats affected attendance as
no,
far as I could see either at the ground. So,
exactly.
yeah.
No. So what I mean by that is I'm just saying, like, it would have made a really special occasion. It would have been a great occasion with it being on the RT as well. So yeah, it is a bit disappointing in that, but Derry will be proud of what they've achieved this season. Second in the league. I didn't expect them to win the league. Second in the league. They have a cup final now in a couple of weeks, which they'll be gearing themselves for, and they'll want to avoid any injuries before that because it is a big game for them because they'll want to win the cup, like, and if they can win
Luke,
the cup, then
Luke, it's
that
not as if
I see
Derry
that as a
City have
very
lost
successful
the
season.
league here.
If you
Like, I
finish
think that's
second
the
and you,
point, isn't it? Sorry to cut across you there. It's not as
no, they
if
haven't.
Derry have
No,
lost the
no,
league
they
as
haven't.
such.
And I think no, you're okay. And I no, and if they had won it, it would have been down to Rovers sort of falling apart at the most important part of the season. But they didn't. You know what I mean? And that's why we're saying that Rovers are doing really well and that they've done really well to win the league. But Derry as well can be really proud of themselves the last couple of weeks since the bringing in the likes of Mark Connolly, Diallo, Graydon. Some of these lads have come in. Cavan has done quite well as well. Some of these lads have come in and they've made a difference and they gave Derry a bit of a fighting hope. And in fairness to them, they put it up to Rovers. They knocked them out of the cup as well, and Derry will be really happy with their season. And if they can win the cup now on the 13th of November, they'll be looking at it and they'll be saying, "We finished second in the league. We've won the cup. Why not? Why can't we go on and win the league next season?" Which I wouldn't be against because I feel like Derry are in a really, really strong position at the minute, and they'll continue to get stronger. This is the first year of that big rebuild we're seeing with Derry, and I reckon we could be seeing Derry next season as champions. But for now, fair play to Shamrock Rovers. Congrats to their club, unbelievable, and to their fans as well. Hopefully, you do enjoy Sunday because they're in that sort of situation, Rovers, that every club wants to be, and Derry are striving to get towards that. So let's see. Hopefully, they're closer than people think.
Mm-hmm.
I think Derry probably are a year ahead of schedule too, Keith. I know last year we qualified for Europe on the last day of the season. That was probably ahead of schedule because Higgins came in
Yeah.
and 6 games into the season. He didn't sign he lost a couple of players. He had to get a couple in. So he's relatively the same squad that Devine
They
had.
kind of pinched the European place last year in many ways.
They pinched it.
Yeah.
And then now this year, with the money that we spent, the players we brought in, everybody was expecting us. They finish second. But I think we're probably reaching the cup final is probably maybe a year ahead of schedule as well. You know what I mean? So it's look, if we had won the league this year, it would have been probably 2 or 3 years ahead of schedule, to be honest. But look, it's been a very good season. If we can build on it now and add to where we need to add, I'm sure Rory and his backroom team will know what they want. And that's the main thing now is not allowing the season to peter out towards a cup final. They'll want to go out the last 2 games and win them and go into the cup final with a lot of confidence.
Yeah, it feels a bit immaterial, but I'm going to stick out with predictions anyway. Rovers and Gent. I think Rovers might get a draw. I'll go for 1-1. And I'm going to go for 1-1 on Sunday as well, hoping I'll be right in one of them. JP?
I think they might. They'll go all out. I think at Tala they try and get the first goal, if not the first one. I think they might just come up short. I think Gent might win it 2-1.
Yeah, they kind of
And
have to win it, to be honest, Luke, in many ways. And on Sunday, JP?
I'm going to say one each as well.
Luke?
I'll go 1-0 again in the first on Thursday, and I think Derry will win 2-1 on Sunday.
Interesting stuff. Right, Dundalk and Bohemians at Oriel Park. Dundalk 2 points ahead of St. Patrick's Lake with a game to go. Bohemians, I suppose, meander in the mid-table, to be honest. Yeah, look, it's a game that Dundalk will feel that not only do they have to win in a sense, but they really can win it because Bows at this minute in time, they do feel like a team that almost are there for the taking. So Dundalk will feel like they'll have to take it. It's at Casey's Field, I must add, not Oriel Park. I'll get it right. This is the last game at Casey's Field, and I'll mention it. You know what I mean? But as such, so yeah, it's an interesting one, Luke, isn't it? I mean, you have to fancy Dundalk here, I think, as well. I just feel with Bows at the moment that they have to go in front to get anything out of any game, nearly. You know.
Yeah, but even when they're in front, Bows, you're never really confident in them at the minute. It's just the way they are at the minute. And look, Dundalk, they're what an interesting game last week that was. They'll be disappointed with the fact they drew that game, and at the same time, they will be pleased if they didn't lose it. They could have easily have lost that one at the end, only for Keyword to come up at the end. But look, it's a huge game for Dundalk. It's a huge game for them. They'll want to just go into this one and just do the business, get 3 points, and you'll be one step closer to finishing third place. Which for them would be a great season. And we've spoken. Look, they have definitely dropped off the last couple of weeks. Their performances have, or the last probably probably say last month at least. You know what I mean? Their performances have dropped, and the results have definitely dropped as well. So they'll just want to do the business last 2 games and then reassess where they are. Because if they can finish third this season, again, be a great achievement. It'd be great for sort of budget that they were going with this season and that. So it would be a really good achievement for O'Donnell to go in this first season to finish third, automatic qualification for Europe and that. But and look, they have made Casey's Field a serious cauldron to go to this season. And yeah, look, they've done really well there. So they'll be really pleased with the season they've had, but they'll look to wrap it up now on the next 2 weeks and finish third, which would be a good achievement. But Pats are right on them, so it is an exciting run in, but we'll see how it goes. But yeah, look, this game, Balls, you mentioned Balls, like it's just again a nothing game for them. Another opportunity for Devine to see, and he said Devlin, Devine to see where they are, see what sort of what he's going to do with players at the end of the season, because he's got a big job ahead of him. I don't actually think people realize the sort of job he has ahead of him. It's a colossal job. It's an absolute colossal job. It's it's a huge job, and we'll see how that goes in the next couple of weeks. But he'll be really just want to see what sort of where he's at with his squad. He'll have he'll sort of have an idea now. He's been there now at least 2 weeks now, so look, he'll have an idea, but on where he needs to improve, which is probably a lot of positions. But we'll see what he does.
Well,
in the
he's
next
only
couple
in
of
the
weeks,
job, and he's managed to help Eaton Varian get his first goal for the club, so that's a positive. JP,
I think the keeper helped him get that.
What's that?
I think the keeper helped him get that one.
I think so as well, to be fair. But JP, it's also good news that they signed up Ryan O'Kane for 2 years, and we don't know if he'll be there for 2 years, but at least it safeguards them, and they might get a bit of cash if he moves on. But you'd like to think from their point of view he stays for a further season anyway, to have one full season at least with them, wouldn't you? Very exciting player, and he's going to be important actually on Friday.
Yeah, he's definitely been the star player over the last 3 or 4 weeks. He's come up with big goals and big moments, and it's obviously one that Dundalk will be looking. Stephen O'Donnell look to build the team around him probably. I know he's quite young, but he seems to be a young head on him, experienced player. You know what I mean? So he's very talented, and no surprise that Dundalk tied him to a 2-year deal, as you say. Like it's a possibility they might not be there for 2 years, but it gives them the trump card, and the fact that if a team comes looking, then Dundalk can name their price, and they're the team that would be in charge of that. So I think he's going to be key to this game. I think he's been the difference over the last 2 or 3 weeks. He had a great chance the other night. I think was it a two each or 2-1 down or something, and he's hit the bar, but he's come up in a few minutes later with a goal. But I think for Dundalk, probably nobody would have expected them to be third this season, but they have done. And I think that a huge part of that has been their home form. As we know, they only lost their unbeaten record at home the other week to Pats.
They
Only for that.
technically haven't lost at Oriel Park because since it's changed to Casey's Field, they lost the match.
um, I think only for that defeat they would have guaranteed third spot already. And um, in house, Dundalk probably targeted that, but we certainly don't think any of us certainly expected them to finish third, going off the back of how last season ended and the ownership issue and stuff like that. And fair play to them. They're up there now. They'll want to get the win over Bows because then it keeps it in their hands for the final game of the season when they come to the Brandywell. And not only that, it forces Pats and they win in their potentially their last two games. So look, third definitely gets you into Europe. We know fourth end relies on Derry winning the cup. So Dundalk will want to get the job done, put their feet up, and then not worry about the cup final in a couple weeks' time.
Prediction, JP?
I'm going to say 3-0 Dundalk.
Ooh, 3-0. Luke, prediction?
2-1 Dundalk.
Yeah, Dundalk will win for me as well. 2-1 actually as well. I had that in my head. But I think they might concede. But I can't see them dropping points here. On to Sligo and St. Patrick's Athletic. And the feeling is, to be honest, it's Pats have to win here because well, you have to win because you're 2 points behind with 2 games to go. But also there's a feeling that Dundalk will win at home to Bohemians. You sense Pats probably have to win their last 2 games and hope for the best, to be honest with you. Sligo, we're always hard to read, Luke, but the last week, when the last couple of days, if you like, 2 decent draws, you'd have to say they'd be disappointed conceding late against Dundalk, but it's a decent performance and point in Casey's Field. And then against Derry City, obviously, there were kind of the party poopers last night as well, getting a 0-0 draw. Wasn't probably the best game in the world either. I don't think, JP, was it? But yeah, Luke, how are you seeing this one? I mean, Pats have Gravossi and Kosher back, so that's only a good thing for them. But look, regardless of what happens in Casey's Field, I think Pats have to win this. There's no point saying otherwise, is there?
Yeah, look, I don't think Pats will be paying too much attention to the likes of Dundalk. Like you're in this situation where you can get caught being too worried about the other team rather than focusing on yourself. So Pats won't want to get caught into that, and I don't think they will. They've got experienced heads in there, and they've got players who will be able to, just go out and do the business. But they've got to do that, and they can't afford to drop many more points now. Between the end of now and the end of the season, the last 2 weeks, so. This is a big game, and they'll want to go in and just get the win. And I think one of you has mentioned the other day that the away end is nearly sold out. I think it is, or is it sold out? Which is brilliant. It's a tough trip up to Sligo, so fair play to the Pats fans because that's a tough place to go to. And I reckon if they can get behind their team, then they can get 3 points. But it's going to be a very, very tough game for them as well because Sligo have definitely improved the last 2 games. They've had a good result up in Dundalk. They'll be disappointed they didn't see out the game. Some poor errors at the back, and that they'll be disappointed with. Some poor defending, and going forward, they were very good the other night, and they looked like they could have even scored more goals. So, look, big game anyways for Pats, and they'll just be worried about themselves and going out and getting 3 points.
Yeah, JP, for Sligo, you obviously watched them last night against Derry. So, from their kind of point of view, how did you find them in the game? Were they just simply keeping it tight, shutting up shop as such, or how did you find them?
Kind of, although they did have the better chances. Maher had to make a quick double save from a free kick, and then from the throw-in came back in the box, and Aidan Keane is unmarked, and so how he doesn't score, don't know, but a great save from Maher. You have to give him credit. And then on the counter attack, and later on, Derry pushed forward to try and get the winner, and Sligo turned the ball over and broke away, and Max Matas missed an absolute sitter. But other than that, I think they were just there. They knew there was nothing riding on the game for them. It was just about could they be professional and maybe get a result for Shamrock Rovers, and they did that. And I anticipate the same thing on Friday night. They'll probably look to finish fifth, definitely.
Mm.
They'll look for that point or whatever. There'll be enough to maybe seal it. But I think Pat's be going in this with a grudge to bear. We we all know what's gone on over the summer at Sligo, and how if it wasn't for them, Pats would be the team in third right now. Um so Pats could be going in this with a grudge to bear, and um their tails will be up when they were looking to get one over on Sligo, I think.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, Sligo from their point of view, they obviously tailed off badly in the European race, didn't they? But you just don't know what you're going to get from them. But you do feel like you feel
They
as though
tailed off
Luke,
last year too.
it did, didn't they? Yeah, yeah. You feel like Luke, the Pats have the harder game than Dundalk. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Just look at where the two clubs that they're playing against are at the minute, especially Bows, obviously. Where they are at the minute, new manager in, it's going to take them a while to get probably up to speed. And look, obviously we're coming towards the end of the season now, so they're just going to want to see the season out. And I think Devine will want this team to put a bit of a get a few points between now and the end of the season. But look, I don't see it myself, to be honest. But and then obviously Sligo still have dangerous players. They've still got players that can score goals. Keane has been exceptional this season. So look, they've still got quality there, and they'll want to spoil it for Pats. They spoiled it for Derry. They'll want to do it for Pats as well. So look, they'll just want to go out and get a result. But the report in the basis of some of the defending of the goals the other night against Shamrock Rovers, I think they'll be really disappointed, especially even the likes of Breslin and that getting that red card. He'll be. I actually only seen the highlights the other day, to be honest, because I was away all weekend. But I was like, what is he doing? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, just unbelievable. But yeah, look, they'll want to just improve on that and not give away any silly goals. Carter back on the side, which is. I don't actually think Pats fans realise. Oh well, I think Pats fans might realise, but
Yeah.
maybe some other fans how much of an important player he is to this St. Pat's team and the way they want to play going forward.
Gravosi's back as well.
Yeah,
He seems to work well with Redmond, if you get me. They just seem to work well
he
together.
does. There seems to be a lack of errors when them two played beside each other. To be honest, because we've seen when Redmond and even the likes of Brockbank played beside each other, there was a few moments of madness. Then obviously the other night you see it again. So look, they'll want to just go out, get 3 points, and go into the last game of the season against Shells and in Richmond, which will be a good occasion for them. But look, they're going to hope that Dundalk drop points.
Prediction, JP?
2-1 Pats.
Luke?
1-0 Pats.
Oof, they're in trouble now because I think they'll win as well. Oh dear. 2-1 St. Pat's. Shelbourne take on Drogheda United at Tolka Park, and I suppose there's something riding on this one, Luke, in fairness, because Drogheda are 3 points behind Shelbourne. There's an opportunity for Drogheda to catch Shells here. Would you believe Shells haven't won in 11 league games, which is an interesting stat? And it's, yeah, you wouldn't think it because some of the performances and results have actually been okay, if you know what I mean. If you think about the 4-4 with Pats, if you think about the games against Shamrock Rovers, the one where they tightly lost 3-2, the 0-0, the draw with Derry, and then they've won the cup games in between. But they've tailed off in the league a little bit, and in fairness, they've kind of rotated players and stuff like that as well. But I don't know, Luke. I think this could be. They'll be disappointed with the UCD match Drogheda, but I think this might be an opportunity for them at Tolka Park. How are you feeling about that one?
Look, it just has to be better than Friday night. I only seen parts of the game on Friday night against UCD, and Drogheda just weren't up to it. Not up to it. UCD wanted a bit more than Drogheda, and they got the rewards from that. You know what I mean? Look, Drogheda were missing a few and very, 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 very important players. You know what I mean? Missing Evan Weir, missing Foley, missing Keith Cowan, missing Luke Heaney. You know what I mean? There was a lot of big players missing Drogheda, and probably playing a formation and probably playing an 11 that he probably hasn't played at all this season, which was obviously a difficult thing to do, but it had to be done with the lack of personnel. But yeah, look, it's a good opportunity. I think we've actually got I think there's 2 buses. I think there's 2 buses actually been planned to head to Shells. I think the away end was going to be hopefully packed out, which will be brilliant because the fans have been brilliant all season, home and away. So I'm hoping that it'll be another good one. But so hopefully now Drogheda can get in and get a result, and 3
Any of
points
those
be great
players
because
back, Luke, actually, that you mentioned? Deegan's back, isn't he? Is he? actually?
I don't know if he is. I haven't seen the suspension list this week. I'm hoping he is, but I'm not sure.
Oh, actually, yeah.
I don't know if he got a multiple game ban or he only got the one. I think Keane will be back as well. He should be back. I think I'm not sure about the rest, but I do think that Keane and hopefully Deegan, but I'm not sure. Haven't seen the suspension list. I think that should be out soon enough. But yeah, look, it's a big game for Drogheda. Well, not really. Not that it's a big game. They'll want to go in and they'll just want to finish the
There's
season out.
motivation there, isn't there, though? If you
There
beat
is. I
Shells
know
and
there
maybe
is.
finish ahead of
There
them.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is. And then they'll want to do that because I feel if we can finish ahead of Shells, I'd be delighted with that. Absolutely delighted with that because obviously last game of the season, it could be Finn Harps.
Kevin Keegan
I
moment,
would.
JP.
Oh God. And then obviously Finn Harps last game of the season, which will again, you know what I mean, depending on how Finn Harps get on at the weekend, sort of, could be a nothing game for Finn Harps, or they could be playing to stay up, like, you know what I mean. So it sort of, it all depends. So we'll see how that one goes as well. But yeah, look, a big game for Drogheda. They'll want to go in, they'll want to get a win, and hopefully they do. But it's yeah, look, Shells, that's a mad stat. The whole 11 without a win, I just can't believe that in the league.
They've
That's
won the league since
because
July, believe it or not.
Yeah, they beat UCD too now.
that's mad because you look at obviously they've gotten to a
Actually,
cup final
12 games ago.
You wouldn't think
Yeah.
it, though, because the results,
Well,
it's weird to say, but some of the results haven't been that bad. You know, that kind of weird way. Strange.
But their performances, I
That's
feel
what
like
I
their
mean.
performances have been really, really
Yeah.
improved as the season's gone on. I think defensively they've gotten a lot better as well, and even going forward, they seem to have a bit more of a threat with Boyd and Moylan. Where maybe at the start, as we were saying, oh, gee, the Shells without are going to really need a goal scorer here, but they did find it in the end. You know what I mean? With Farrell chipped in, Boyd chipped in, Moylan all chipped in, even players at the back chipped in as well. So everyone sort of chipped in and at important points of the season. But that's a mad stat. I don't think they'll be pleased with that, to be honest. Look, I know, look, they stayed up and like they're in the cup final, and I know Duff said that, but like they won't have been too impressed with the fact they haven't won since July, like, and they'll want to do that on Friday night, and they'll want to win that. But it is an intriguing game. Shells and Drogheda. I think it has added a bit. There has been a bit of a bite to it in the last couple of seasons, and I expect nothing more on Friday night. So yeah, it should be a good game.
Yeah, an interesting one, JP, because as I said, they're Shelbourne with that start and that. But do you think they'd be too worried about that in reality? Because as I said, some of those results within that, and in the last 5 games, they've actually had good, decent results, apart from the UCD one as such, which I watched last night. But they rested a lot of players. Boyd didn't play and stuff like that as well. So
suspended.
They are in cup final mode, aren't they?
I think so. You just wonder, did they sacrifice the league to go for the cup? You would wonder because they, as you say, they haven't won since the 22nd of July. The cup started a week later. They got a couple of good draws early rounds, and then all of a sudden they've seen the likes of Pats and Dundalk and all going out early, and maybe have they sacrificed it? Then you look at the Pats game where they were 4-2 up and drew 4 each, and then they were 2-1 up against Rovers and lost 3-2, and it's say they've had good performances, just hasn't got the results. And then you look at it then and think maybe if they had gone out of the cup, would there been a bit of pressure on Duff because they weren't getting results? Because we all know that performances doesn't matter; it's a results business. But they'll be relatively happy with their season. At the end of the day, they would have been probably happy to finish 8th this season and consolidate. And look, reaching the cup final is probably a bonus for them, really.
Yeah. But
they'll definitely be in cup final mode now. They'll be wanting to go and win the cup. Obviously, they haven't won it since 2000. But at the same time, you don't want to be going on the cup final on the back of mediocre. No, not mediocre, but you'll want to go into the cup final with confidence, having picked on a couple of wins in your last 2 games, and this is their last game in front of their own fans before the cup final. So they'll want to sign off at Polka Park with a really good result, and I think they've got Pats in the final game, haven't they? So it'll probably give them nothing more joy in beating Pats than that, especially if it stop Pats getting 3rd spot and then going to cup final and winning the cup and stopping and getting Europe all together. You know what I mean? So we know that there's that animosity. Well, not animosity, but the history
there's
between
a rivalry there. Yeah,
there's
no
a
doubt.
rivalry between Shells and Pats, and we all know where it dates back to. Keith, me and you'll know. We'll know the Ollie Byrne and as a in Bobby Livingston and all
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Also, um, there's
Marnie.
definitely a rivalry there. So, um, for Shelbourne, they want to win this game. As I said, it's a last game at Polka Park. But Drogheda, they've an opportunity here now to beat Shelbourne, go level with them, and then they Finn Harps in the last game of the season. As Luke touched on already, that could be an immaterial game for Harps, depending on how results go this weekend, or it could be game on. And look, I can't, I can only see a draw coming out of this game. I'm going to say one each.
Luke, prediction?
Yeah, I don't think it'll be a game of many goals, but I think it'll be 1-1.
I'm going to go for a draw to the pinch at 1-0. And guys, we'll finish off with Finn Harps and UCD, and we left this to last because for me it's the biggest match of the weekend. And obviously UCD drew 1-1 with Shelbourne last night. I watched most of this game. Look, it wasn't a great game, I'll be honest, but I tell you what, in the last 15 minutes, UCD looked like they could win the game. Some crosses into the box, which looked very dangerous. In my opinion, they should have had a penalty as well. Honestly, I think Luke Byrne pulls down. I think it might have been Dignam, I can't remember, but he did score actually. Dignam scored a great goal last night after Leverage scored his first goal for Shelbourne, but mainly on UCD. A draw is a funny one for them because obviously they're 3 points ahead of Finn Harps going into this game. Harps have a much better goal difference and will do, let's be honest, likely by the end of the season. But for me, I'll start with you, Luke, in this one. For me, this is a must win for Harps. There's no hiding away from that. I think even if a draw, 3 points leaves them in a very perilous position going into the last game. They have an opportunity now. They're at home. They have to go out and win this match, I think, Luke.
Yeah, it's a huge game, an absolute huge game. And look, I think we've spoken many times with Finn Harps this season, and you know we haven't given them an awful lot of credit. They'll be really disappointed with their season overall, but get these two games, the last two games against UCD and Drogheda, and if they can get results in both of them games, they need wins. You know what I mean? They need wins. They can't just get points, or you know what I mean. They actually need wins, and they're must win games. So look, it's a big one on Friday. They'll take it each game as it comes, and they'll feel like they could go out and beat UCD. But UCD, look, last two games have been very good. Played very well that night against Drogheda, and they played very well there against Shells the other night in the second half. So, look, it's a huge game for both teams. UCD win what their guaranteed playoffs, then I think it is. So, it's huge. It's absolutely huge. And for Finn Harps as well, look, if they can be going to Headingley Game Park then the week after, needing a result to go into the playoffs, they'll be really optimistic then they could do that. But it's up to them to do it. So they've got to go out and get 3 points. They need to go for this and this game. So their crowd, I'm sure, will be right behind them. They haven't had an awful lot to cheer about this season, but if they can get into the playoffs and they can stay there, and then they can, you know what I mean, bring it then to that first division team. And it's over 90 minutes then, who knows what can happen. But they're a long time away from that, and so are UCD. So, for UCD could be 90 minutes away, or Finn Harps could be, closer than we think. But yeah, it's a huge game. It's a very intriguing game. I don't think it's going to be a game with a lot of quality. I don't think so. I think it's going to be a game where neither team will want to lose it, but someone has to go for it. And I think the team that has to go for it is Finn Harps. So, Finn Harps, which could lead to them getting a few goals, or it could lead to them conceding a few. So God knows which way this one's going to go. It's going to be a very tough game to call. But yeah, it's a huge game.
JP, what's interesting with UCD is that in the game last night, for example, Donal Higgins came off the bench, Lonergan came off the bench, Duffy didn't feature. Now, I believe he might be injured, but I wonder if it's a case of he could be available for Friday. It's just interesting that they didn't exactly seem to play what you would say was their best 11 last night.
No, 100%. And I think the main thing for Finn Harps out of this game is they make sure that they're going to Drogheda still with a chance, whether that means getting a draw or beating UCD. I think that's the main thing. They want to go to Drogheda with still a chance, because with UCD having Rovers in the last game of the season, it's likely that all Finn Harps will have to do is beat Drogheda by a goal to nil or whatever, just get any kind of win. But going on to UCD, I think we have to give them enormous credit, Keith, for how they've played this season. A lot of people tipped them to be cut adrift, me especially. I didn't think Finn Harps would have regressed this year the way they did compared to last year. I think they finished eighth last year, and they had 40 odd points, and they've only just hit the 20 mark over last week. So it's really, really disappointing from their point of view. But for UCD, they would have taken this when they beat Waterford last October or November, whenever it was, in the playoff final. If you'd said to them that night you were going to Finn Park, second last game of the season, and a win gets you another playoff spot, they'd have snapped your hand off there and then. And that's exactly the situation they're in.
Does that situation put more pressure on Finn Harps, do you think, in this game?
I think it does. I think it does, because they know that it's boom or bust, really. So it is. And I think going back to Finn Harps of old, where when they needed a result, especially at home, you always fancied them to get it.
Yeah.
But this year, it's hit or miss. Well, like we saw a good performance, good battling performance against Shelbourne the other week, where they got a point at Finn Park. And then they had a good battling performance in Dalymount the other day, where they were probably disappointed not to come out with a win.
Yeah.
They ended up, and that's now put them on the back foot. But UCD throughout the course of the season have always been the team that you always felt that could pull a big result out of the bag, and they've done that. They've picked up 5 points or something against Sligo this year. They've picked up 7, I think, against Finn Harps, something around that. And that is the key whenever you're trying to finish in a certain spot, whether it's Champions Europe or playoff spot, you have to take points off the team that's going to be the closest to you, and that's what UCD have done. And maybe pick up a point here or there against the other teams, and they've done it. They've done that. As I said, they've beaten Finn Harps at Finn Park already, so they'll go in with confidence into that game.
They've taken 7 points off Finn Harps in 3 games, so that's huge, isn't it?
And they're 3 points in front of them, and that's the difference. Like, and not only that, they've picked up a result. They've beaten Drogheda. They've picked up
a couple of good wins against Sligo and that.
Yeah, our results where you wouldn't expect them to, and they've done it. And I was just thinking there, maybe that if they'd Colin Whelan fit, would they've been safe by now? But the most likelihood would have been that he would have been gone in the summer anyway. So I don't think it was too close to the transfer window before he got injured anyway. So, and Liam Kerrigan, we knew he wouldn't have stayed with him there. And I think that's where you have to give him even more credit, because they've lost their 2 key players, and they've still battled to be in the position that they're in now. And they've like they always do, they unearth gems like Dylan Duffy, and a few others. Dignam's popped up last few weeks with crucial goals for them. So they're the team that you always fancied could dig out a result unexpectedly. And I think they're going to get a result in this game, Keith. I'm not particularly sure whether they'll win it, but I think they won't lose it.
Yeah, Luke, I mean, a win for Finn Harps, in my opinion, probably keeps them up, though. That's the weird thing. I know it's weird to say going in. You'd be level going into the last game of the season, but they've a far superior goal difference, in terms of going into the last game of the season over UCD. If they win this, UCD have to play Shamrock Rovers, and regardless of what Harps do in Drogheda, they'll have to get something against Shamrock Rovers. So I know what we're saying in many ways. I think JP mentioned there as well that they have to make sure, because there's a potential that Finn Harps actually get relegated. If they're beaten, they will be relegated in this game. But a draw keeps them in the game. But I really feel, realistically, they have to go and win this match, Luke.
It's a must win. It's just as simple as that. No matter how they do it, whether it's, they get the scrappiest goal of life and, you know what I mean, then they win the game 1-0, they'll take that. They need a win here. Look, they could take a point, but I still don't think a point be enough for them. I think they need to win this game. If they can win this game, as you said, like they can, go to Drogheda, and knowing that UCD have got to get something against Shamrock Rovers. So, which obviously it will be a tough thing for them to do, but I don't think you could write off UCD either, to be quite honest. It's a very interesting one, a very, very interesting one. You know what? I remember it would never happen, but I'd love for this game to be on RTE. Love for it to be on RTE.
Imagine, yeah.
It would just be brilliant, because it's different. Like it's we're going into one of the last games of the season.
People would tune in, Luke, and they wouldn't even know, wouldn't have heard of the teams ever before. That's what happened there. What is this? Is this soccer or what is it?
Oh my God! I definitely don't think there's going to be any. Not Finn. I don't think there's going to be many Finn Harps fans happy with that. Anyway, they're
No,
already typing in the
that's no
comments.
disrespect about clubs. It's more of a go of the Irish fraternity who tune in watching television and they wouldn't even know the teams. That's the point, really, Luke.
No, they see the Finn on the top of it. Be like, Finn, who's Finn? Look, it's
Shark
an
program.
interesting one, but it would be great. That's what I'm saying. Like, this is the whole thing. It'd be great for the two teams. Won the last game of the season. If UCD win, Finn Harps are relegated. If Finn Harps win, they've given themselves a great chance to stay up and to go into the playoffs. So, look, why isn't it on telly? We will never know, I suppose. You know what I mean? It's silly. Probably Big Bang Theory or something be on at the same
So
time
it
as
is.
it or something. Yeah, it is. But that's the whole thing is as well. The Big Bang Theory probably be on at the same time as it. You know what I mean? Like, surely they can throw the game on. Like, surely. But look, anyways, look, we could talk about that one all day. But yeah, big game. I don't know. I don't know how to call this one, to be honest.
I think as
Well, you're
well.
going to have to call it, Luke.
I'm gonna go with a Finn Harps win. I'm gonna go 1-0.
Finn Harps. JP, you were going to say something there?
I think what we have to remember too, although UCD play Rovers in the last game, Rovers have the title done and dusted. Europe's done and dusted. By the time they play UCD, it's what sort of mindset will Rovers be in? Well, I know they'll be professional and they'll go out and try
And they still have the quality.
Try and affect the result for Finn Harps, but it's a tricky one. Like, Finn Harps will want to win this game, but at the same time, UCD Rovers beating UCD is not a given like you would expect if it was in the middle of the season. You know what I mean? Because their season's effectively done when they play UCD.
Yeah. So Luke, you've gone for Finn Harps. JP's saying a
Yeah.
draw, I think, really, aren't you? So
Yeah.
I actually genuinely think Finn Harps are going to win this. I do. I think
Yep.
they're going to. I hope they bring a good crowd to the game, and Oisín's there banging his drum and all that kind of stuff or whatever, screaming from the rafters. But I do. I think they'll win it, and I think they'll put themselves in a good position. But it's a really intriguing game, and it's one you'd like to see in a strange way, in a sense, because there's so many games on Friday night you probably won't get to see it, and you hear the result and all that kind of thing. So yeah, really interesting game. Really looking forward to that. Guys at home, let us know your predictions. Finn Harps fans, are you confident? Are you not confident? Because I sense you're not confident. Subscribe to the channel, hit your bell notification button, and thanks again, guys. That was brilliant stuff. Brilliant.
Cheers.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Lovely.